for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for Angelo Butch Marcone, a bus attendant since 2017, and Catherine Fallon. Dr. Shredwood, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Dr. Trey, seconded by John. We have some changes to the agenda before we vote. We're going to remove item 4.01, the budget update, change 4.03 to the community schools update to 4.01, and rename 5.02 to read ELC Storage Facility, Long Ridge Roof, and Olympia Roof. Okay with that? So can I have a vote to approve the agenda? That passes. Okay. 8-0. Student leaders, let's start with Athena Middle School, please.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to take a moment to highlight the many amazing things at Athena Middle School. I am Maggie Brent, and I am in 8th grade.
I'm Charlie Zimmer, and I'm in 8th grade. I'm Agam Preet Kaur, and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Madison Hewitt, and I'm in 8th grade. This year, students at Athena Middle School continue to learn and apply the 7 habits of highly effective teens through the Leader in Me program. Currently, we are engaging in lessons on Habit 5, Seek First to Understand. Here are some questions students will be thinking about and discussing in class. Grade 6, what happens to the brain when new things are practiced? Is it within our circle of control to learn to speak confidently? How can learning to speak confidently help us to be leaders? What is the benefit of considering another side of an argument? What is mirroring? How does mirroring positively impact a conversation or an argument? That was 7th grade, I'm sorry. 8th grade, how does honesty related to effective communication? Who benefits from being honest with people? Why is honesty important to be a leader?
This month, we are excited to present the musical SpongeBob. Our cast and crew have been rehearsing for many hours in preparation for the show. On April 19th, Channel 13 is coming to Athena to feature the full cast of SpongeBob all morning long. The show dates are April 21st at 7 o'clock, April 22nd at 1 and 7, April 28th at 7 o'clock, and April 29th at 1 and 7.
Athena Middle School has many student athletes participating in spring sports. These sports include tennis, track, lacrosse, softball, and baseball. Thank you, Board of Education, for supporting these improvements on our school athletic fields, including the new turf fields. Other clubs taking place at Athena Middle School are Athena Cares. This year we have done bell ringing for the Salvation Army, kept the Take What You Need board supplied with inspirational quotes, volunteered at the annual Greece Rotary ZD dinner, and sponsored a Cancer Awareness Week. Our new club at Athena Middle School is Crochet Club. This club that is open to all skill levels and grades, however, primarily the 6th graders are the majority of this club. We meet every week to learn basic stitches and work on small projects. So far, we have learned how to crochet, make bracelets, worry worms, and dish scrubbies. Students also can come and share a project they are currently working on at home. The students that participate have bettered themselves by learning a new skill and making connections with classmates they might have not interacted with before. Currently, we have 43 students signed up and participate weekly.
At the Rochester Finger Lakes Science and Engineering Fair held on Saturday, March 18th, 2023 at the Rochester Museum and Science Center, Athena Middle School 8th grade students received the High Honors Award for their research in engineering and sustainable design. The team also received Outstanding Performance regarding the Innovators Challenge for 2023 and will advance next year to compete at senior level. Winning projects have the opportunity to participate in subsequent competitions such as New York State Science Congress, Genius Olympiad, and the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. We are very proud of this team of young women: Taylor Blake, Maggie Brent, Daniela Musumeci, and Claire Trepanier-Peck.
Above the Influence is a district-wide program. At Athena Middle School, we have 30 eighth graders in the program that were nominated by their peers. We've completed the first campaign, which focused on what students gain by rising above the influence of vaping. The students created posters and hung them around the building, and they also went into eighth grade lunch and had their peers fill out cards of what they gained by rising above the influence of vaping. We are currently working on a second campaign, which is the facts about vaping. So students will roll out different ways to get facts out to their peers about vaping. Examples include TikTok, Kahoots, and social media. We have a lot of positive feedback from students in the program who enjoy it and want to help combat vaping with today's youth.
The Athena History Club was founded about 11 years ago by teachers Wendy Barton-Ovellen, Andrea Brunetti, and Arthur Lamphere. The History Club was founded to further students' knowledge of history, especially historical people and historical sites in our own community. We joined History Club to learn more about history, to visit sites in our community, and to meet new friends who have similar interests to us. When we are getting ready to visit a site in our community, we usually have a presentation by Mrs. Barton-Ovellen and Mrs. Brunetti, and sometimes we have assignments that we complete to help us learn something about the site so we know what we can expect to see and some of what we will learn. During the time we've been in History Club, we've learned a lot about and visited many different places in our community, many of which we have never really knew about before. Some of the places History Club has visited include the Monroe County Courthouse, Mount Hope Cemetery, the Greece Historical Society, Susan B. Anthony House, George Eastman House Museum, the Memorial Art Gallery, Gunnagon, the Rochester Museum and Science Center, the Charlotte Lighthouse with a side trip to Ebbot's, Artisan Works, and more. We enjoy how much we learn from the docents who guide us, including many facts and new information we would never get from a textbook. We also like how interactive many of these places are. Artisan Works even had a scavenger hunt set up for us to complete. A great part of the Athena History Club is that so far, students have not had to pay for any of these adventures. The advisors have organized fundraisers and written grants in the past, and this year, the Greece Central School District has supported some of our trips as well. Thank you so much for allowing us to come to you to talk about this club. We're glad to hear that we can continue to be a part of this club as high schoolers, as many students before us have done as well. Thank you again.
As you can see, Athena Middle School is working hard to engage students and families. We have a lot to celebrate. Thank you again for allowing us an opportunity to share the many wonderful things happening at Athena Middle School.
Thank you. Oh, picture? Before you leave, we want to get a picture, ladies. With the board. With the board.
Excuse us.
I don't understand what you're saying, the children? The kids. And now we'd like to welcome Athena High School.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Groutman, and members of our cabinet. My name is Javon Barfield, and I am a senior at Athena High School. During my time at Athena, I have consistently earned high honor roll. I have been recognized by the Urban League of Rochester as a Black Scholar, and I will be graduating with honors this June. Outside of the classroom, I have been a member of the varsity basketball team, the football team, and Athena's band as a trumpet player since 4th grade. During my free time, I enjoy volunteering throughout the Church of God by Faith and working a full part-time job at Chuck E. Cheese. Next fall, I'll be attending the University at Buffalo to study nutritional science, and my hope is to work in the field of athletics and nutrition. Although I'm looking forward to a college experience, I will miss the lifelong connections and friendships I have during my time at Athena.
Good evening. My name is Lucia Rosa Lagamba, and I'm also a senior at Athena High School. Outside of school, I spend most of my time working at Spenceport Hots or volunteering at both Food Link and Unity Hospital. During my time as a Trojan, I have been a member of Yearbook Club, Student Council, and the Trojan Tribune, which is Athena's newspaper. Academically, I was inducted into the National Honor Society, and I am one of the seniors who is enrolled in New Visions, which is a dual enrollment career pathway program for aspiring medical professionals. This school year, I have earned high school credits, college credits, and internship experiences with Strong Memorial and Unity Hospital. In June, I'll be graduating with valedictory honors, and I have been selected as one of 5 students for a nationally recognized physician's assistant program at Shenandoah University. I am certain that the opportunities Greece has provided for me, such as New Visions program, are what set me apart from others and assisted me in reaching these goals. Leaving my peers here at Athena will be hard, but I'm excited to begin this new chapter of my life. There are lots of exciting things happening at Greece Athena High School, and we are delighted to share a few of them with you tonight. I'd like to begin by inviting a fellow Trojan, Gianna, to speak to share our first item.
Good evening. Wait. Good evening. My name is Gianna Bisnet, and I'm a 9th grader at Athena High School. For the past year, I have been a member of Disability Empower Network, which is a network with the mission of supporting women with disabilities as they advance into leadership roles. During my time with Empower, I have attended a leadership camp to refine my understanding of the role I play in the advancement of young women with disabilities. With this goal in mind, I have researched the evacuation opportunities for those in wheelchairs. I have found the evac chair, a device that allows for the safe evacuation of individuals with disabilities. This standard model is carefully designed, weighing only 19 pounds, but has the ability to safely hold up to 400 pounds, making it an improved public safety option. When I saw this chair, I knew it was the project I wanted to lead through Empower. I reached out to the Athena administrative team to share my research, and last week I was informed that the Greece Central School District has already ordered the evac chair. Next, I will be working with the Athena team to discuss plans for training staff to safely use the evac chair in the event of an emergency. After this, I will be joining the Empower team to lobby for the evac chair to be used in public spaces on a trip to Washington, D.C. On a personal note, I would like to thank our leader from Empower who has joined us here tonight, and Sophie, my mentor. in addition to the Greece Central School District and Board of Education for supporting my vision, because we all know that when disabled girls lead, we all succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianna, and congratulations on the excellent work. Next up, the Athena High School Improvement Team has identified 3 priority areas for the 2022-23 school year. Among them is that all students will be provided with social emotional learning instruction. In the spirit of continuous improvement towards this goal, staff and students have been sharing feedback through surveys and focus groups, often led by students. The message is clear. Students and staff are both interested in having choices to promote authentic relationship building during SEL classes. As a result, the Athena High School Culture and Climate Committee, led by Assistant Principal Lori Shaw and teacher Michelle Skamaka, are using staff and student feedback to create a pilot program this spring to inform the design for the SEL classes for the next school year. Stay tuned for more updates as the work continues.
The Athena Trojan student athletes just wrapped up the winter season with some impressive finishes. Our boys varsity basketball team, led by head coach Mike Setzer, landed the first seed in the Section 5 tournament, and we finished as division champions. Our season ended with a heartbreaking loss in the section finals versus Western Roanoke, but our team had an outstanding season, and next year is looking strong already. Additionally, the Athena High varsity bowling team, led by coaches Lisa Cannon and John Clifford, landed another Section 5 championship title. After sectionals, Athena High senior Haley Grabowski, the star performer, went on to the state championship, leading the Section 5 composite team to a respectable finish. Congratulations to all the winter athletes as we look ahead to excitement to the spring season, which is underway. We currently have a softball, baseball, Storm boys lacrosse, Thunder tennis, track, and for the first time in history, Section 5 is offering girls varsity flag football. Athena has 30 female football athletes, led by Coach Tim Bruner, who are preparing for their first game on April 24th against Arcadia. On behalf of the Athena student athletes, we invite all members of the board and cabinet to watch a game this spring.
We are also thrilled to share that 2 weeks ago, the Athena High School Music Department, led by Kathy Dyer, Brian King, and Crystal Robinson, returned from our competition in New York City, and we did not disappoint. In fact, our music department brought home 5-time Gold Star ratings for outstanding performances in both vocal and instrumental. In addition, both instrumental groups earned the Adjudicators Award for high scores, and the jazz band earned the single highest score of any instrumental group. However, what is most impressive is that Athena High School was also named as the recipient of the Festival Sweepstakes Award for the highest cumulative average of all schools competing. It is fair to say that our hard work is paying off. Thank you to the Board of Education for your approval and support with this overnight event. We very much appreciated it.
Impressive. And next, I'd like to highlight the work of Athena High School Black Student Union, led by Mr. James Jones and student leaders Sade Muborn, Jada Williams, and Maya Williams. To begin, the Black Student Union hosted the first ever Blackout Gala, open to all Greece Central School students in celebration of Black History Month. It was a huge success. Through the generations donations of Greece Athena alumnum and former NBA player John Wallace, who also served as the keynote speaker for the event. It was well attended, and BSU hopes for the continue this tradition in the future. Additionally, BSU also returned recently for the first time ever trip to Washington, D.C. to visit historically Black colleges and universities. 7 Monroe County school districts participated in the event, which began in theory from Athena High School students over a year ago, and included 130 Greece Central students representing each of the 4 high schools. On behalf of the Black Student Union, I would like to extend our gratitude for the board's support for the historic trip.
And finally, if you have not already heard, just before April break, News 8 partnered with a group of Athena High School students to surprise Mr. Jones, senior English teacher and Black Student Union advisor, with the coveted Golden Apple Award for his outstanding service as an educator. Mr. Jones, seen here, had just returned from the Washington, D.C. trip hours before the news busted into his classroom to honor him with the recognition. Congratulations to Mr. Jones for this well-deserved award. And lastly, on behalf of the Athena community, we would like to extend our gratitude for the Board of Education's ongoing support for our students, faculty, and families. We recognize that we are able to excel in so many ways because of your leadership in Greece Central. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, picture time. Pictures. Item 1.07, GTA. Do we have someone speaking today? Welcome.
Oh, no. This is really short. Hi, my name is Kristen Capiello. I am a high school social studies teacher at Greece Odyssey Academy. I'm here to represent the Executive Council at GTA as their high school advisor. This is going to be real short. The GTA has started its annual Board of Education candidate endorsement process. A joint team consisting of union members from AGSEP and GASA will be interviewing prospective board members in hopes of identifying candidates that share the common goal of supporting high-quality public education. Invitations have been extended to all who have taken out a petition to run. Like in years past, we will focus our questions on prospective Board of Education members who look to support students, staff, and the greater Greece community. We look forward to providing an update to our members and the community at the conclusion of the endorsement process. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Someone here from GASA? AGSEP. Oh, GASA, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Kelly Lampman. I am the principal at Long Ridge, and this is Mike Ferris, the principal of Autumn Lane, and we're here to give some updates on behalf of our GASA unit members. So we just wanted to start by really saying that we realize that together we are stronger, right? And so that it's really important for us to continue to seek unity with all of our stakeholders in the community. We also recognize that it takes time for change to actually happen, and research shows that real change takes up to 3 to 5 years.
We'd like to make sure we make clear that GASA is appreciative of the support of the Board of Education. The following are examples of how our buildings are utilizing the supports provided by the Board of Education in 2 priority areas, in the academic area of ELA and math and behavioral health.
I am going to start by talking about how we're trying to show improvements in ELA and math in the areas of proficiency. And the 2 areas that we're really going to focus on are goal setting and really focusing on the needs of our students. So we're going to go through some of our schools and highlight some of the great things that are happening. At Lakeshore, they've really been focusing this year on goal setting. And so they've set end-of-the-year goal of 65% proficient in reading and 69% proficiency in math. At the mid-year mark, they scored 61% proficient in reading and 63% proficient in math. So they've really worked really hard. They're almost there at their goals that they have set. They've had some school-wide challenges that have helped to excite the students, and some of the supports that they contribute to some of that success is instructional coaching, a very strong professional learning goal, and specific interventions for both ELA and math. I get to talk about Long Ridge now. We also have been focusing on goal setting, and we have seen some great success. We've had an 18% increase in the number of students who are proficient in reading and a 13% increase in students in math. We've also done some school-wide initiatives to really get kids excited in iReady, and I would say the same thing, that the instructional coaching, we have 2 instructional coaches at Long Ridge. We've had really explicit teaching for how to use iReady notebooks for our students, and we have put a lot of work into our building interventionists, supporting students and teachers in the classroom. Patty Hill is also setting goals, and their primary focus this year has been math, and they have shown a 20% increase so far in the number of students who are proficient in math. And they're doing this by really meeting with the teachers and reviewing the unit assessments and designing Tier 2 instruction to prepare students for the next unit. Their end goal for the end of the year is 70% proficiency in math. Arcadia High School is really focusing on what students need, and they formed an MTSS team, a multi-tiered system of supports, where they're focusing on standards-based academic instruction. Right, so they're using some data points to highlight here. Are 23 students recovered previously failed courses. 125 students have recovered learning to earn a passing grade from a previously failed quarter. And 93% at-risk learners continue to hold final passing averages. Great stuff happening. And last for this section is Pine Brook. And they are also focusing on that win block, or what the students need, where their classroom teachers, their interventionists, then students across the grade levels are working on their instructional level for what they need. This month, they had some math enrichment, and students in grades 1 through 5 participated in the New York State Math 24 tournament. And that's just a game where it promotes fluency and critical, flexible mathematical thinking. Oh, almost forgot you. I don't have it on my slide.
There you go.
Oh, great. Can't forget Autumn Lane. They're also goal setting, and they have had a priority focus on increasing reading proficiency for all students by 10%, and this goal is building off the momentum from the previous year of 11.5% increase. So they really have some great supports, like their language development specialist, their building TOSAs, and really targeting instruction in all tiers.
She almost missed Autumn Lane. Oh.
Sorry, how could I?
I get an opportunity to talk a little bit about behavioral health. And so there are 2 bullets that are on the screen that point out things that we're working on to try to make sure that we improve our behavioral health in the district. One is to maximize the existing supports that we have for students. And then the second is to provide additional supports for students when necessary. So the following students on those cute little emblems below, or not students, but buildings, are going to be specific examples. GASA recognizes that positive behavioral health is critical to increasing student achievement. So the following are some examples of how those individual buildings are utilizing increased behavioral supports, as well as improving efficiency of the existing supports by reallocating resources to focus on our equity imperatives and student behavioral health. English Village pointed out three specific areas. In Tier 1, their lessons and classroom lessons and Aaron's Law lessons are prioritized and scheduled with teachers and support from school counselors. In Tier 2, they increased their sense of urgency around starting Tier 2 SEL groups, and they have an emphasis on primary project to help support students. In Tier 3, partnership with Genesee Mental Health is a strategy that they're using to try to help support behavioral health. Patty Hill is focused on Tier 2 supports. They have an emphasis on their check-in and check-out system, some small group instruction for behavioral health, and student support plans when necessary. They celebrate this work at Patty Hill in terms of the behavioral health team and the addition of their counseling and social work positions that were given to them this year. Much appreciated from Patty Hill. Speaking of hills, we have Craig Hill. Craig Hill's focus was more on staff development. Craig Hill had basically pressed a reset on their focus on behavioral health. They did professional learning opportunities for staff, and those opportunities included tabletop meetings for Tier 2 supports of students. They also have SEL lessons led by their behavioral health teams, and they have small group and individual instruction, counseling for specific students that need. Long Ridge, I won't forget them. Increase in supports from Genesee Mental Health to support their Tier 3 students. Strong behavioral health team over at Long Ridge that supports their Tier 1 lessons, classrooms, and Tier 2 small group lessons with specific students, and then Tier 3 individual and small group sessions for those that are in need. They have a strong partnership with the Center for Youth, and that allows for some support for students in all tiers. All right, we have little cuties from a school over by, the west side. My Autumn Lane people, especially those that are on the right, if you look, they earned there was a school-wide initiative around student behavior, and they earned a popcorn party because of all of the work that they were doing. But Autumn Lane we have a targeted approach to increasing student behavioral health by increasing student leadership development, by utilizing the Tier 1 supports and Leader in Me lessons, as well as character building initiatives in order to support all students. We recognize the impactful program additions like Genesee Mental Health and the social worker that was added to our building this year to allow for more targeted skill building for the students that need it the most.
So when talking about behavioral health, we wanted to make sure that we talked about the positive impacts that the funding that we've received is given to expanded learning opportunities for our students. So we're going to talk just a little bit about clubs at 3 of our schools. So at Buckman Heights, they've been offering students extended opportunities that are high interest to support behavioral health in their school. So things like basketball or arts and crafts, dance, music recorder, Girls on the Run, gaming, just to name a few of the clubs that they have been offering. Over at Pinebrook, they have seen their Panthers socially, emotionally, and academically soar in their expanded clubs. So they have offered opportunities to over 150 students, and these clubs have our American Sign Language, board game club, book club, cheer club, drama club, and outdoor game club. The perception survey showed that 97% of their families report that Pinebrook has involvement opportunities, and 95% reported that they match their child's interests. And then the last school is Craig Hill, and they are offering extended day programs to their students. So they're really focusing on reading, writing, and math with additional small group opportunities for their students 2 times a week. And they've been able to work with about 50 students who participated in the spring extended day opportunity.
All right. So we would like to just make sure that on behalf of GASA that we want to thank the Board of Education for giving us the opportunity to share some of the amazing things that are happening in our school buildings. GASA recognizes that Greece Central is stronger when we are united. We also recognize that without the support of the Board of Education, the great work that we shared today wouldn't be possible. Please rest assured that we remained focused on the priority areas of ELA and math and behavioral health. We also realize that the supports included in the upcoming budget are vital to our success. Thank you for supporting the initiatives and the programs that allow us and our teams to carry out this great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody here from AgSet? Gus or Teamsters? Seeing none, item 1.08, we're going to skip tonight. No?
I think they were not able to be with us, correct? Yeah.
Okay. We're good? Yep, you're good. Okay. 2.01, staffing. Superintendent Groutman? Are you doing it? Okay. Can I have a motion to accept Tammy, second by John? All those in favor? That passes 8-0. And President McCabe is back.
Continue.
Oh, no, no, no. 2.02, tenure. Can I have a motion to accept the tenure? John, seconded by Mark. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? All those in favor? That passes 9-0. Superintendent Groutman, are you recognizing those people? No. Okay. Yes?
We have a 10.
You didn't vote? Okay, so that makes it 8-1. I'm sorry. President McCabe, we're up to 4.01.
Community schools update, Superintendent Groutman.
So we have a sea of blue out here, and we have several times a year, we bring you here to give us an update about the significant work that's going on. The point that I want to make as I introduce you, obviously, there's a lot of people here that support this, and I would just say as a superintendent that this is because you represent a bigger body of work. This is a huge strategy and a lift that has made a significant difference for our district. So I appreciate your representation today, you being here, and for providing us regular updates. So I look forward to hearing from you all tonight. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Payne.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to ask Kelly Sperduto to join me up here this evening as well. So a couple of things. It was interesting because as I was listening to Kelly Lampman and Mike Ferris talk a little bit about some of the things going on in their schools, it just made me realize how deeply embedded the community schools work is across our district, which I just had to say that out loud because it really and truly is pretty impressive. And it was really just kind of a nice transition or a nice segue into our presentation tonight. So thank you for that. Anyways, this evening, we're really excited to be able to get up here tonight and talk a little bit about the community schools and the successful impact that the strategy is having for the students and the families in our community. Tonight, we have some both qualitative as well as quantitative data to share with you, and I want to thank Dr. Henley for his help in organizing some of the data for us this evening. We also have provided for you, you have a manila folder in front of you that has some supporting documents that you can peruse or you might want to reference at some point in our presentation or later on. So what are community schools? It's interesting because 5 years ago when we began implementing this strategy, it was a bit of a challenge just trying to even define what community schools are. And even today, and maybe even as board members, as you're out there in the community and people say, what are community schools? It is a little challenging to articulate. So we wanted to provide you with some resources to help you with this. But one of the things that we just wanted to sort of feature in this presentation tonight is this slide that has a really nice definition of community schools. So I'm going to read it to you. The community school strategy transforms a school into a place where educators, local community members, families, and students work together to strengthen conditions for student learning and healthy development. As partners, they organize in and out of school resources that supports and opportunities so that young people thrive. So this graphic that is in front of you, I think is really important. And there's in your folder a framework for community schools. And on the second page in, it allows you to see this framework a little more up close and personal. So I just love this graphic for reference because at the center of it It really talks about all students flourishing and thriving in our schools, in community schools. And it was really excellent to hear even our students talk tonight about some of the ways that they're thriving. So I think that that's really, really important. The other piece, too, is just this idea, and it's highlighted how it is a community effort. It's not just the school alone that has this lift. It's a strategic way to be able to come together to really figure out what it is that our students need, that our families need to be able to help with this. And I love this graphic, but it just really helps us remember that it's the school staff, it's the coordinators, it's the community partners, it's the youth, and it's the family. Our kids are coming to us with more and more complex issues. It's a challenge. And, you know, we are stronger together, as what we heard earlier tonight, and we do better work together. And so this idea of how we're really working collaboratively and cooperatively together to be able to provide these experiences for kids is some of the things that we want to share. So again, Kathy referenced our team of blue. Our wonderful team, our community school team, works under the direction of Kelly Sperduto, our community schools coordinator, Shelby Levitro, our lead parent coordinator. We have 9 community school site coordinator. We've expanded to having 11 building-based parent coordinators. We also have 2 community advocates working at our neighborhood navigation center. And by the way, we're going to be celebrating all of our community partners at an event for the Neighborhood Navigation Center that's going to be in May. So more information that will be coming to you about that. Also, the Center for Youth is our lead agency, and it employs most of the individuals here this evening. Many of them are in the audience tonight, and you can see them in the sea of blue, but I would like to ask that they just stand up for a minute and be acknowledged for their really super hard work. Thank you. All right, so a couple of things. Some did you know? The community school strategy is a research-based strategy, and it is supported by ESSA for school improvement. There are quite a few return on investment studies that talk about, you know, when you invest in community schools, there is a great return on investment. But it's really nice to see some of the traction that is happening around community schools. So as you can see here, the U.S. Department of Education has contributed $63 million in grant funds for the community school strategy across 20 states presently. In New York State, there are right now 104 districts that are implementing the community school strategy across 647 schools, 332 outside of New York City. And then in New York State, there's $250 million in community school funds. And I would like to say that for the last 5 years, we make a trek to Albany, and we've done a lot of advocacy to help in this regard. So we're super excited about this. And then California, they contribute a whopping $3 billion around community schools. So a lot of traction and support for community schools. I mentioned a little bit about the return on investment study. In your PowerPoint, there's some links to some studies that reference around how for every dollar that you invest in the community school strategy, you can get a net benefit of $7.11 for that investment. I've seen studies as high as $14, so it really is a great strategy. The RAND report talks about community schools having a positive impact on attendance, on student achievement, a reduction in disciplinary incidents, and improvement in school climate. And then one of the things every time that we get up in front of you to talk about community schools, in addition to defining what community schools are, it's this idea of understanding what the intended impact is. And we spent quite a bit of time at the onset really trying to define this. So again, our community schools were committing to ensuring equitable outcomes for all buildings, deep connections with families, and creating strategic community partnerships so that children can be healthy and successful, families can be strong, and our community can thrive, with bold emphasis on that part of the impact. And Kelly's going to go into more details around some of that work.
So Val referenced that in your package, you have the Community Schools Forward document, and this document is really the work of several different educational organizations across the country. Our presentation today, we're going to connect the Greece Central School District focus areas for community schools with this new document, and each slide will talk about the impact areas and the performance indicators that will lead to the desired outcomes outlined in there. I also want to mention, like Val said before, that although we have 9 full-service community schools, every school really does have access to the community schools supports. Okay, so 5 years ago, we started with just a small amount of clubs at Long Ridge. We had Hope Church offering some clubs, we had teachers doing some after school, and fast forward to today, you see on this slide, we have over 1,700 elementary students in after-school clubs at our community schools. There were 109 different club offerings at these schools, and most excitingly, we transported our K-2 kiddos home from clubs for the first time since I've been here. English Village did a pilot, and Holmes Road started their pilot today, and it was a great success. Everyone got on a bus and got home to their grown-ups, so that is a win. I'm just going to name some of the clubs that kids are able to participate in. So we have cooking clubs, books, sports, karate, code ninjas, music explorers, dance, basketball, yoga, puzzles, and many, many more. In your packet you received today, you also have letters from staff and community partners over at English Village, just talking about the amazing impact that clubs have had in their building. It's really rewarding to hear from parents about how excited their kids are to come to school so that they can participate in their after-school clubs. 2 years ago, we completed our family needs survey, and from that, we heard from 86% of elementary student families that answered that they were interested in free or low-cost activities for their kiddos, especially over the summer. Additionally, 20% of families said that they currently had to leave Greece to find those opportunities. So last summer, we offered summer fun camps to 500 students in K-5, and this year, we're actually able to increase that number to 720 spots that will be available and coming out to families in the near future for fun camp activities for kiddos to participate in at our schools. Again, based on our family needs assessment, 77% of families said that they needed help supporting their children, getting them ready for college and or jobs. So our community schools team works with Corey Skinner, our director of school to career pathways, to seek community partnerships to support us with this. We started Hillside Work Scholarship this year for the first time with high school and Phoenix Academy. Currently, 84 students are enrolled with a wait list. Their focus is really on academic support, job readiness, and youth development. And our community schools site coordinators at our secondary buildings are also really working hard to increase student voice. So they have information tables during lunch to get information out to kids. They are offering more club opportunities, helping with student newsletters, and student broadcasts as well. Okay, so our Neighborhood Navigation Center is an incredible new partnership we have this year that we will be highlighting, like Val said, in May. But really the goal is to coordinate services for families for them to have better outcomes. So through a variety of different grant funds, we are able to partner with ESL, the Greece Rotary, Open Door Mission, and more to provide assistance to families that you see on this slide. We've had over 100 families connect with our Neighborhood Navigation Center. We have 16 families in a 2-year-long Support to Success program. 13 families were able to secure housing in Greece to stay in our schools because that was important to them. And the Neighborhood Navigation Center has done 28 home visits to date. If you have the PowerPoint, there's also a little connection for donations needed. Kaylee Roderick, who works in our NAV Center, has worked really hard to find ways to bring in donations and also get them out seamlessly. As you know, we're really big on family engagement and super fun events. So this slide highlights some of the events that we've had this year. Our Fall Family Fest had 350 families attend with over a 98% satisfaction rate. Really our goal is to just build trust and build relationships with families and really link it to learning. And this Saturday, we're super excited to have our Spring Family Fest at Olympia. There's still time to register and volunteer for that event. As you know, we've really worked hard to increase stakeholder voice across the district. This year, we have 12 parents on district-wide committees, and even more exciting, we have 16 parents on community schools building-based committees having their voices heard. We are offering 4 district-wide parent exchanges, the next one being tomorrow night. Still time to register for that as well. And our parent coordinators are working hard to get building-based parent exchanges up and running as well. Okay, so in partnership with the Parent Leadership Training Institute, our parent coordinators this year have had 16 hours of professional development, and that's really huge. These are parents who have kiddos in Greece and who are also working with us, learning about how best to engage with families. Each of our parent coordinators works collaboratively with their building leaders to create welcoming and engaging events in their school communities, and they're also lucky to work with some very strong PTAs to collaborate to plan and host those events as well. A lot of those are listed on the slides with book buddies, monthly celebrations. They're working hard on their Facebook pages, and they're building s'mores and having fun nights and open gym in their buildings. As Val mentioned, the Center for Youth is our lead agency and an incredible partner. They have really teamed well with us to meet our needs in Greece. So we keep asking for more and more, and they keep delivering. We have 19 social learning specialists, like Mr. Ferris and Ms. Lampman mentioned, focusing on behavioral supports, and these 19 specialists had almost 8,000 contacts with students this year, and those are times where students have needed and received one-on-one support from a caring adult and received that, whether it's in their classroom, in the hallway, in the help zone, having a restorative conversation, or just getting them back to the classroom so they can stay in school. Our Peer Accountability Council started at Arcadia, and we are getting up and running at Olympia as well, and we are hoping to expand even more. Again, as we talked about behavioral supports, we are seeing in this cartoon that's kind of hard to see there, that kiddos are coming with more and more needs every day, and research shows that when these kids have these needs, they aren't ready and able to learn. So in order to provide supports for them, we are working with several different mental health agencies to connect with our families and schools. Each family can determine if this is a support they want for their child. And the best part is, since these mental health therapists are coming in our buildings, they can actually connect with the school staff in real time instead of playing phone tag throughout the week. You can see here, as of January 31st, we had almost 5,000 mental health visits for students in our buildings from Genesee mental health providers. That's with 432 unique families served, and I can tell you that number has increased exponentially since then. Okay, at our Early Learning Center, we are also focused on providing comprehensive supports to our students. Students there have opportunities to engage in play-based learning, and as well as the Early Learning Center, Autumn Lane, Holmes Road, English Village, Long Ridge, and Pine Brook also receive support from the Primary Project. And then Nazareth Colleges has been a great partner for us at our Early Learning Center. It's really mutually beneficial. Their pre-service students get to come in and learn from our experienced staff, and our kiddos get extra caring adults working with them on the regular. And there's a link here that just talks about that presence of one caring adult that's really committed in a child's life, increasing the likelihood that a child will flourish and become a productive adult themselves. So these community partners, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Generation 2 Mentoring, and the Foster Grandparents Program are all mentorship opportunities that we're providing our kids through community partners. Okay, in REACH 2027, Commitment 3, we talked about expanding opportunity and increasing our lead innovator partnerships. So all of the organizations you see on this slide are lead innovators, and every day we're adding more and more partnerships strategically to meet our students' needs. It's really important to note that most of these partnerships come to us at little to no cost. They're either offset by New York State Foundation aid, grants, or private funders. Okay, during the COVID pandemic, it became clear that our community relied heavily on us as a school to help with their children and their needs. And our goal is to find community organizations that can help us with that lift. And so through several different grant opportunities, we've been able to connect families to resources to help them stabilize so that they can stay in Greece, like we mentioned before, and keep their kids in our schools. The grant funds have helped with housing, childcare, and transportation, as well as employment, and we are conducting middle and end of the year evaluations to make sure that the services that they're getting are really helping support their kiddos. All of you know how much food costs these days. I don't have to tell you that. And therefore, we're seeing more and more families coming to our district food pantries. At our Acadia Middle School, which is our main pantry, we've had over 540 visits since the beginning of the year, with the numbers increasing every single month. We rely heavily on donations and community partners, several of our faith-based organizations, as well as FoodLink, to help us provide the food that families need. We also have backpack programs where kiddos can bring food home in their backpacks if requested, and we've been able to provide food at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break with the help of many of you in this room, so thank you. Again, while food is a need, clothing has also been a need. Our Acadia Middle School clothing closet that opened just last year had 125 visits this year. Our Early Learning Center had over 100 visits. And we're providing clothing to kiddos for a variety of reasons, whether it's a house fire or unstable or temporary housing, unemployment. We've had many refugee families come and not have clothes for the weather here. And sometimes kids just need a change of clothes because they spill at lunch. And rather than having a parent leave work and drop off clothes, they're able to run to the clothing closet and grab what they need. Okay, now we have some case study information from Long Ridge and Arcadia Middle School. So at Long Ridge, this slide is really highlighting the work that's being done to get each and every kiddo to school each and every day. You'll see in the graphic the comparison between non-low income and low income students, and you'll see that their attendance is pretty much similar, which says a lot because typically students who are low income are more apt to have higher absences. There will be more things standing in the way of them getting to school on a regular basis, and because at Long Ridge they're a community school, they have the supports and services needed to help those kiddos. Their attendance is stable. This slide shows the family perception survey data, and you will see here that Long Ridge has more favorable data compared to other schools in the district. Part of that is because of their focus on family engagement through community schools. They're really collaborating to build trusting relationships. And then lastly, I know Mrs. Lampman's excited about this one. Long Ridge is celebrating their work to meet the needs of students and getting off of the ESSA accountability report. The graphic in this slide shows, there you go. The graphic in this slide shows more students meeting and exceeding standards than in years past, and they're also seeing high growth in both reading and math iReady scores. And then Arcadia Middle School is also working hard to boost student achievement through programs like AVID and collaboration with community schools. They're seeing results. Arcadia Middle School is outperforming other non-community schools even though they have a significantly higher poverty rate than those. Also, they're seeing significant attendance growth thanks to the hard work of Maria Carr, their community school site coordinator, and their building social worker. They meet every single week talking kid by kid, making sure everyone is there in the building ready to learn. They've done 15 home visits to meet with families when they're not able to get to the school, and the interventions they're doing are really paying off. And lastly, Arcadia Middle School also is seeing more favorable data from the family perception survey as well. With that, I'll turn it back to Val.
So it's exhausting and let Kelly catch her breath for a minute. So the thing that really just blows me away is like none of this existed 5 years ago. So when you think about all of the supports and services that we've been able to wrap around our students and our families, it really just, it like makes me, gives me goosebumps. So a lot of hard work, and I want to thank the people in the room for doing this. So next steps. I think Kathy made the announcement a couple of weeks ago that we actually were able to write a COSER with BOCES so that we now are going to be able to do this in even a more cost-effective way and sharing some of our expertise with other districts that are interested in doing community schools as well. We have an updated needs survey that we're going to be doing this fall. You know, it's really interesting. With community schools, we don't sit and say, let's do this to our families or let's do that to our families. We ask the questions. And then we go after the partnerships based on what our families are saying, what our students are saying. So I think that's a really important piece to know, that it's not just like, let's go off and say, I think our families would benefit from that. We go right to the source to really determine what it is and then strategically go after the partnerships. We also hope to be able to continue to expand. We've been able to, we started slow. We started at Long Ridge, and we've been able to kind of grow out a little bit at a time, and we hope to be able to continue to our expansion. We will continue our involvement in statewide and nationwide community school networks. We are very involved in this, and that's something that we will continue to do moving forward. I'm really, really proud. I am actually emotional standing here this evening sharing with you that we really are lead innovators in community school work in New York State. Many districts look to our model and want to emulate what it is that we are doing. It was really the forward thinking and the vision of our superintendent when she was like, go look at community schools. Can we do this? We need this in Greece. And the tremendous, unwavering support of our board around this work that has empowered our team to be able to transform our schools. So, thank you.
I just want to add one quick anecdote before we go to questions, but I've sat recently at numerous places with superintendents from around the county and the state, and we are recognized as a lead innovator in the state. There are not districts this far along in terms of the work that they've done with community schools, and we did it during a pandemic. So I think that, interestingly, I think our timing of starting and then having the pandemic hit gave us that opportunity to really coalesce and do even better and more work. But it's really, really impressive. I also will go on record that the work that was done to secure the coaster, that's unusual that a district's leading that and really pushing and doing the amount of work, but I've had at least no less than 10 districts from around the area reach out to compliment this team right here, from individuals to Val and Kelly. So it makes me incredibly proud. I also just want to point out, because I think it's very confusing for people when you think about how do we do this. And I think that was what was so hard at the beginning, like where do we even begin? And we were in a budget crisis at the time. And so this is uniquely accessing grants. It's uniquely accessing partnerships. It's uniquely accessing federal funds that if we don't get them, somebody's getting them. So I just want to point out that because of the strategic and really thoughtful targeting work to get money, we've been able to really do this. And without your work in securing those funds and the COSER and those partnerships, we really wouldn't be this far along. So it's so incredibly amazing. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Grumman. Questions? Mrs. Farmer? Microphone?
Thanks, John.
No problem.
A comment, not a question, but many years ago, I was teaching 6th grade, and there was a little boy who had come to Greece, and housing caused an issue where he had to be transferred to my classroom. This boy was so heartbroken. So when I see here that you are looking into this housing piece, because we know what instability does to a kid, he made it back. So I wish I remembered his name, but thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Farmer. Ms. Farah?
I'm going to start on page 4 with the money. All right, so federal government gives you $63 million, and I'm glad that somebody's got $63 million laying around, because I don't. If we don't get the federal grants, and New York State doesn't have $250 million set by the governor's budget, what happens? Where does that impact the school district? Where's that? I know that you said you've been doing this for 5 years. This is little to no cost. You've got other people. You have side contributions coming. So if this doesn't pass, where does this leave the district? I mean, how many grants are you actually getting versus how much are we paying out here?
So I can't give you exact numbers on the grants right this second, but I can, they're there. The U.S. government funding, we actually didn't get that $63 million. We have braided funding strategically from local government, from a variety of grants, from different organizations. So oftentimes people come to us and say, we're writing a grant and you're in a good position, so can we write you into it? And we say, sure you can. So whenever one grant funding might dry up, we always go after another strategically to make sure that we're funneling that through, and that's what the BOCES COSER was really meant to be as well, as a way to secure funding long-lasting, so we didn't have to constantly be looking for new grants every day.
So when you say there's little to no cost, you're saying there's little to no cost for the taxpayers. It's not in the budget, so there's.
So a couple of things, yeah. I mean, there is, go ahead, Romeo, I'm sorry.
Hopefully I can clarify a little bit. Most, if not all, of the community schools, with the exception of some of the grants and partnerships that they have on the side, is funded through the general fund. So it's in our regular operating budget, okay? And the difference going forward is when it sits in the general fund, and I'll just use $100 as an example, you spend $100, it costs the district $100 out of the general fund. But now being able to go through BOCES is very, very beneficial, because we will spend that $100 the same way we did the previous year. It will go through BOCES, and the following year, we will get $78 back in a revenue source, which really means it only cost us $22 the year before to run community schools. So by going through the COSER at BOCES and convincing them that not only is it beneficial for us, you have to have other school districts participate in a COSER as well. You have to have at least 2 school districts. It sort of, I will say, saves what we've been spending on community schools, about 78, 80%.
So if I could just add to that too, the idea of, we tried to go after that COSER. That was a really good question, Megan, because we tried to go after that COSER in the event, sustainability. How are we going to sustain this if monies do go away? I will say, though, that when we started community schools, we didn't have a nickel that was set aside for community schools, not a nickel. And it was the superintendent and myself going to Senator Roebuck at the time and saying, all of the research says community schools will not be successful if you do not have a community school coordinator. So we advocated to be able to get that funding, which he totally supported, and we were able to, produce Kelly to really work on do this work. And so that idea then is additional advocacy. We went to Albany, every year, let's go to Albany, let's talk about community schools. So those national and those state advocacy groups that we sit on, around community schools, it's around that. How do we continue to have this funding? There's so much research that it helps with school improvement, all those different indicators that we need to look at with school improvement. It makes a difference. So I don't see the funding going away anytime soon, but we try to be thoughtful around the sustainability. How do we make sure that this continues?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Flores?
I just want to say thank you to all of you. You guys are amazing. The ability for you guys to multitask and to think on your feet, think outside the box, pick up those gray areas, pick up vibes from the students on given days when they just aren't having that great of a day and they need a little of encouragement. So thank you for all that you do every day that you walk into those buildings with those kids. Great job. Question on the clubs. I've heard from a couple of families how excited they are about the clubs that are happening in the elementary schools. Who is who is there to oversee these clubs, and how are they run, and why are we able to have them?
I can answer that. All of these people breathe clubs. During club sessions, they talk to kids and gather interest. They create clubs flyers. They send them out to families. They take the flyers back. They get all of the data. They go work with transportation. They run the clubs. They find teachers who are interested. They find community partners that are interested. They stay late every single club's day to make sure kids get there, that they get home okay. And then, of course, it's at the end of the school day, so there's always a building administrator in the building. Sometimes they're popping into clubs, sometimes they're doing their other work, but they're there to oversee.
Excellent. So we talk a lot about the why things happen in our district. I think this program is a really good reason of why we need these extra supports, and thank you to all of you who spend your days living and breathing this.
Vice President Millar?
It's been amazing to watch this grow over 5 years. I think it's important the community to know there is this need. and we can blindly say it's not there, but it is. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of these people as I volunteer for some things, and I look at your faces and you are all so proud of the program that gives my heart a blessing, because that's why it's working, from the pride from all of you, so thank you.
Dr. Traywick.
I wasn't going to say anything because I know all of you and I know you guys do great work. Thank you, as Tammy said. But I will share this. You know, clubs are so important to kids. When I was growing up, I never got to participate in after-school clubs. It's not a sob story, it's just my story. I had to go, you know, straight home. I had to babysit my little brothers and sisters because my parents worked. You know, I had to clean the house. I never got to do any of that stuff. So the fact that this is being offered, it could change a child's life. You don't know what getting home, you know, if I had had a club, it would have been great for me, but I didn't. So being able to offer that, you know, as an alternative to what they may have to, you know, go home immediately to, and maybe it's not those things, maybe it's other things. I just think that just shows like the extension of our district, the heart of our district, the ability to stretch beyond, you know, and yeah, we have uncertainties. We may not know how long it's going to last, but in the meantime, we don't know how long we're going to last. Let's be real. You know, in the meantime, we are doing what it takes. So I just want to say thanks to all of you guys. I'm looking forward to Saturday for the Family Fun Fest. So, and that's all of you once again. So thank you for providing these opportunities for our kids, our students, and our families.
Thanks, Dr. Traywick. Anybody else? Oh, Ms. Farrar, go ahead.
Just another quick one. Page 13, we talk about committee membership. We've got 12 parents that are on district committees. Out of those 12 parents, how many of them are not on the Grease payroll?
I do not have the list of the committee members for district committees, so that's why I'm looking at Mr. Todd Smith.
12, really? Okay, good. I was going to make a comment, I'm hoping, because obviously you guys are already committed to this, so we want to make sure we get other people here versus the 12. That's my only concern. So thank you.
All right, I'll finish up. I remember the day we talked about this at a retreat. Val kind of threw it out, and we were talking about it. And I was a little skeptical at first, and Val sold me on it. And I am so incredibly proud of where you guys have brought this program. I never in my wildest dreams, when we had the conversation talking about this, that it would be where it is today. You guys have done an amazing job. Kelly, you running it has been amazing. You've went above and beyond in so many aspects. Val, I think your leadership and drive behind this has been instrumental to be where the program is. So I just want to say I'm so proud of all of you, and thank you. Thank you so much for what you've done. And the only thing, I mean, and I mentioned this to Val way back in the day, and it's still a thing, I'd love to bring a health component in. I would love to bring some type of a, you know, program where we have a PA or somebody in a partnership with Wegmans or one of the drugstores, and we can bring our kids in and help our kids. And, you know, I hope that comes to fruition in the not too distant future. So that's what I'm really hoping for. And I just want to really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of you for what you do every day. Thank you very much. All right, with that. And before we jump into the budget, so I'm assuming that's going to take a while, why don't we take a little bit of a recess? We'll take about a 5-minute recess, so if anybody has to use the restrooms, get some water. And if you guys want to take off, feel Superintendent Groutman.
All right, good evening. Thank you so much for being here and for your attention this evening as I share my budget proposal for the 2023-24 school year. I'd like to begin first by thanking our budget department led by Romeo Kalili. The work that we do to construct a budget each year and put forward a responsible budget that meets the needs of our students, staff, and families is outstanding. We work incredibly hard to listen, get feedback, and allocate dollars thoughtfully to hopefully make the greatest impact possible with our students. As you know, we've been sharing this process in parts since December. So this is a long process. You've gotten bits and pieces throughout, and tonight is our night to really put it all together and put it forward for you to hear it sort of all at once. You'll see here, obviously, we have May 16th as our day for a budget vote. And what I'm going to do is take you through the process we go through, and then we'll also go through sort of where we allocate dollars, and then go through a more detailed financial look. So Romeo and I will do this together. But years ago, when Romeo and I started working together, we felt like it was really important to design a process that was clear, that was transparent, and that made sense, not only for people within the district, but for our community members. So we really broke everything down into this 6-step process, and we've followed it every year since. So this is sort of just the way we do business now, which has been very helpful. The first step is around, and I'll go through these quickly, but then I'll get into more detail with the presentation. The first step is really just assessing funding, which started way back in November, December. Step 2 is around identifying priorities. Step 3, around investigating economies. During step 4, we really develop the actual budget proposal that we're putting forward. And then step 5 is ongoing evaluation. So before I get into, I'll bring you right through the steps, but before I get into that, what I'd like to do is also provide some context. So before you can really understand how we go about all of those steps in that process, some context matters. So enrollment matters a lot during budget. Enrollment matters because it's really directly connected to staffing. It's also directly connected in terms of the dollars we get from the state. So you'll see what this line graph is trying to show us, or showing us, is that the top blue bar is showing Monroe County. So you can see enrollment numbers are going down across the county. That's been happening for years. This is goes back to '06. Then you see down at the bottom, the gray is Greece. So you see where we've gone down a bit, but we're flattening. So Romeo and his department does a lot of work in terms of enrollment projections, and told us this several years ago, that we would be flattening, and they also told us that we may actually even be going up a bit when we look at the way we do projections. So I just share that because that's good news. Over here, what we have here is demographic information. So in order to develop a budget, the context matters, like I said. So in addition to enrollment, we want to look at who are we serving. And what this is showing us is really some of the changes that we've seen and some kind of key statistics for the last 5 years. So this is going back to 18-19, the school year. And what you'll see is our overall enrollment is down. So similar, it showed it on that gray graph. It was a little flatter because it was showing it over time. But when you look those 5 years, it's down 5.6%. Our English language learners are up, though. So you can see from 3.7 to 4.7, we continue to steadily rise in that area in terms of numbers of students that are our English language learners. Our special education numbers have also risen, so we're up from 12.6 to 13.7. We have more homeless students than ever before. So when you go back, that number was around 168. It's not all perfect, but we're now up 183 or above. And then our students receiving free and reduced meals is up to 64.1% from 56.1%. So it's a really significant change. The reason I share that is because typically when you see those increased needs, whether it be special education needs or whether it be homelessness or free and reduced and like economic need, what we find is that families who are coming to us with need generally require more services and supports. So those are the kinds of things that you may see and note that are involved and connected into the budget. And you heard some of that with the community schools presentation today. So I'll get right through in terms of just the overall process. So step one in terms of assessing funding is really that when we first started, we go back to December where we're really looking at just an initial rollover budget. If we were to take everything that we do this year and just kind of rolled it over to next year, what would it look like? So we start to do some of that basic work. And when we're doing that, we're also looking at what revenues can we expect. So we know that, and we hope, that we're always going to be getting funding from the state, but we have reserve funds, we have fund balance, we know that we always collect a levy. And as you've heard a lot of talk around, is we've gotten more foundation aid than ever before. So we have an interesting sordid history of not getting and not being fully funded by the state, which is unique. It's not the same case for everyone in the state. We were around 60% funded, and then there's been an effort to continue to give us and restore us, to get us the money that we are owed. So this step for us, for my first 5 years, was the most depressing step of all, because when we would roll over, we would be looking at a $3 to $9 million gap every year. Since we've been restored and more money is being given us in terms of the foundation aid, that place where we look at surplus or gap, we have not been at a gap. We've been at a surplus for the last couple of years, which is great news. And I'm going big picture now, and I'll get into detail in a minute. But step two is around identifying priorities. So we have a strategic plan which calls out our priorities. That's a huge and important document for us, but what we also do is consider our current context. So we know, for example, that we have learning needs and behavioral needs right now. We always have, but we've also seen that exacerbated by the pandemic. And we know that we have work to do in that area. So that is a priority, and we have to make sure when we're considering this that we're flowing dollars to support the learning needs and the behavioral needs. We know also that safety is a huge priority. So with safety, that's everything from our school safety officers, our guards, but also looking at, in general, wellness for our students. How are we creating welcoming environments and providing social emotional learning, as well as culturally responsive education for our students. And then lastly on this page, what you'll see is just expanded learning opportunities. So that idea that clubs, extracurriculars, athletics, music, robotics, those things matter for our students, and our families have said to us, we've listened to them, and they said they want them, they need them, they want them over the summer, they want them over breaks, they want them after school, they want them before school. We have listened. So that has been noted as a priority. Step three in this process is really looking at investigating economies. And back in the day, when we were looking at $9 million gaps, we were scrutinizing every single thing, and we still do. We created great habits back then. So one of the things that we do, number one, is we look at all positions to try anybody that's leaving, whether you're retiring or leaving, we're looking to see, number one, do we still need the position? And number two, can we fill it at a lower cost? It's just smart business. Number two, we look at aligning staffing to actuals. And again, years ago, we weren't that great at this, but now there's a really, really robust process between Romeo, Jeremy, and HR, and our other assistant superintendents around really matching up staffing to actuals so that we don't have classes running with 5 students in them. We're really making the most of efficient staffing. Number three, we look at supplementing educational needs through alternative funding sources like grants, partnerships, and through the use of our BOCES. So some of that was mentioned here, but we're always trying to go after dollars to take the edge off of, or the ease off of, anything in our general fund. And then lastly, spending less on contracted services, supplies, furniture, and software. So we literally go through every title of software to make sure, are we using it? If it's not being used, we don't need to be paying for it for the year. If it's a magazine subscription, if we're not using it, we don't need to be paying for it. So we're that detailed in our work, as well as every other contracted service that we pay for. From there, what we do is really look at, so now we need to develop a budget. And during all of this time, there's data and there's information being gathered from schools and departments and all the different groups. But with that information, what we do is take the strategic plan in terms of commitment 1, 2, and 3, And we really make sure that we're aligning dollars. Anything that's going to be funded in this budget needs to be connected to the strategic plan and these commitment areas. So you'll see what I try to do, and I do this at a bigger level, and then Romeo will take us down a little bit more detailed, is just to sort of show you what's in this budget. So if I'm just anybody in the community, or if I'm a board member, how do I know even what's being funded? With Ignite Learning, that commitment one, there's a ton in here. And again, remember our context in terms of our priorities with the pandemic and learning and behavioral needs. You'll see continuing to support and increase programs, specifically that are funding counseling supports, things like our early intervention with full-day pre-K, with language development teachers. So some of those things you've heard about because we added them last year, but we want to continue them or even grow in some cases. Those are in here. Maintaining increased mental health and behavioral support positions. We have more counselors, mental health, behavioral health, social workers than we ever have in this district. But at the same time, someone made the point earlier, you don't see change really quickly. You can't just put a social worker in and expect all of a sudden behavior is going to change. It takes some time. So we want to continue to maintain those supports for our students. We have significant learning loss issues and academic needs. So we are continuing to support in this budget the math and ELA intervention positions. Those are huge, and that was in some of the principal comments they mentioned. That's why they're seeing some of the successes, some of these really targeted individuals that are supporting kids and really going after the reading support and math support. We're continuing to make safety a priority. We have 2 school safety officers, but we also have 35 security guards. We have a great deal of infrastructure in terms of apps that Steve's rolling out a new app right now. There's some money associated with that. There's professional development that he does with his team and with all of our schools. That costs money. We're looking at continuing to build infrastructure in terms of our entryways. That costs money. So priority or prioritizing safety is always a huge issue for us. And then continuing to support opportunities that allow kids to take ownership for their learning. So making sure that we have programs like our AVID, like our Leader in Me, programs that are exciting for students where they can take leadership and actually take their learning to the next level. And that might be something like Leader in Me, but it also could be a pathway, or it also might be something like the New Visions program that the one student mentioned today during the comments. In this next commitment area in terms of cultivating trust, again, this is a very meaty area to really sort of put to dollars all this stuff. And trust is a hard thing, too, to sort of put an amount on. But we're looking at promoting positive school culture and prioritizing student and staff wellness. Well, what does that look like? That is some of the programs that I mentioned in terms of Leader in Me and AVID, but it also is professional development for teachers. We've worked really hard to make sure that there's robust professional development for teachers. It might be coaching for teachers. That was also mentioned in terms of when we can get in and support a teacher with their instruction and make them better, it also makes them feel better and more supported. We've done a lot of work with mindfulness. We've done a lot of work in terms of creating the right environments in schools and really working to support schools in that work. That's in here. Expanding the community schools model. You just heard about all of this, but we want to continue to make sure that that branches out to all of our schools. Partnering with community organizations to increase programs, services, for students and families. So the partnership piece is interesting because some of this can come through that BOCES COSER, but we do a lot of partnerships that really cost us no money. We have a Nazareth partnership right now that's funded by a federal grant that's getting us 15 social workers. So it's because of the community schools work that we've done, but there's dollars in this when we think about this that are being supported, not necessarily by our general fund, but we want to make sure that we point out we're supporting. In addition to that, we have places like Center for Youth, we have Children's Institute, we have our local colleges and universities. There's a lot of organizations that we partner with. Genesee Mental Health as another one. So those are ones that we want to continue to support. promoting outreach of our students to care for the Greece community. This bullet is really around calling out the need to also call on our students and staff around service. So if we're going to cultivate trust, how might we do that? Well, we do that by, a simple example is the Odyssey Rake and Run. Kids go out and rake yards in the neighborhood, run around, move, and go to another, that's a service. So many of our school organizations are collecting money for food drives. They're doing clothing drives. They're doing drives to make sure that there's dresses for kids who might be in need before prom. There's a million examples. It's like something every week I can find something in our schools, but we're trying to instill that mentality in our students that they belong to a community and that they also need to give back. And then continuing to engage in two-way communication with stakeholders, and that is through students, staff, and families. So how do we do that? We pay for some things. We use some tools like our perception surveys that cost time and money. We use thought exchange. We have parent exchanges. There's a lot of different ways that we're trying to go back and forth to get two-way communication. Some are pretty minor dollars, but it's still important that we name it. And then lastly, in terms of commitment 3, expanding opportunities, this whole area is really looking at so many things that we should be proud of as a district. If I were to compare us to anyone in the state right now, we have more high-quality opportunities for our kids in terms of access to college-level programming than any place in the state. Over 70. If you go 20 miles down the road, you will find districts that have 0. You will find some that have 1. We have over 70. So if you are a student in Greece, you can get college credit in 70 different ways. And you think about that impact on students and that impact on families, it's huge. As well as really high-quality CTE pathways that Corey Skinner has been working so hard with. You think about pathways like our RTE program. We have a lot to be proud of. We continue to refine hiring practices, focusing on retention, while also making sure that we provide high-quality professional development. And there's some dollars there. When we host a fair, there's some time and money put into that. When we provide professional development, there's time and money to pay people, to pay presenters, and also to pay our people. So we want to make sure that we're honoring that because we want to continue to create skilled, high-quality people to put in front of our kids. We also, this year, because of the increase in foundation aid, have increased our allocation to schools. So this was a big one in that, when Romeo and we were working on this process, we're spending almost $1 million more just giving money to schools to support instruction at the school level because it had been a while since they'd gotten new allocations. So trying to make sure that we're honoring what we're getting from the state and making sure schools are seeing that. And then we also continue to do things like securing high-volume discounts with frequently and high-volume supplies. So that's just part of our regular practice, but we wanted to remind people that we do that. Step 5 in this process is ongoing evaluation. So essentially, after we go through this process and get to a point where the board adopts a budget and we're able to put that up to voters, we're always reviewing and trying to get feedback around what did we do well, did we get it right, where can we improve. So that goes on throughout the year. And we get feedback from key members within our district, but we also are looking for key members in the community. Romeo's always looking for new members to be part of the Budget Advisory Committee, and that committee comes together just to be sort of that sounding board and to give us feedback along the way through this process. So I mentioned again that committee, he's always looking for new members. And with that, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Romeo to give the financial overview. I will chime in again at some point, but he will sort of take you through because this is really building off of so much of what he's provided up until this point.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, Kathy had provided myself and the budget department with a thank you. I, in turn, want to thank my team and my colleagues as well, just formally acknowledge that. And with that, there is one key member in our department, Janine Cushman back here, who's always attending the board meetings with us, key person to put this all together. This is not done by one person. It is truly a 6, 7, 8 person team effort for several months in order to get this done. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So state budget, 23-24 budget. As you may or may not know, we don't have one yet. And it was due April 1st from the state. They passed an extender last week. They recently passed another extender yesterday in order to make payroll for next week. They will either have a legislative budget on the 17th, or they will pass another extender on Monday, the 17th of next week. The three items, the items that are holding up this budget, ironically, do not include education. It's primarily over bail reform, housing, and taxing. But we are part of the larger budget. We therefore have to wait and see how things go. However, in that budget, there are several items that would be advantageous for us that we have been advocating for, that we're anxiously awaiting to see where we are with it. One is the implementation of the full foundation aid that we've been waiting for. We believe it'll be there, but until it's there, we'll just need to see. There is also universal free meals for all our students, which is a big item that we anticipate will be there, but again, we just need to see what the final budget is. Expansion of universal pre-K. Was proposed to have another $125 million allocated for universal pre-K. Again, if that goes through, that's an item that is advantageous to us. And the other one, sort of indirectly related, is the waiver of the income waiver for retirees. With the shortage of staff that we have in all areas, if they do go ahead and extend the income waiver to June of 2024, that will help fill, not just for us, but many districts with gaps that we have in teaching and other positions. This was the slide I had ready to show what the difference was between the legislative budget and the governor's proposed budget back in January. Column 2 is the executive state budget that came to bottom line $151.2 million. If you look at column 5, we made a small adjustments that we've already reviewed with the board that brought it up to $152.3 million. We still believe that is a solid number for our state aid. And as soon as we get back the legislative budget, we'll put that in here and bring it back to the board with what the differences are between the two. But at this point and through the presentation, we are going with column 5's number of $152.3 million in state aid throughout this presentation. Foundation aid, Kathy had mentioned foundation aid. We all kind of know the story about it. Foundation aid is that basic aid we get per student to provide a sound education to each and every student within our district. You'll see here, going back to 07, 08, we used to get somewhere around $49 million. The court case, the ruling had gone through that with the new formula. You'll see we got a bump up to about $55 million. The recession hit in 08. The boots fell off of the car, the tires fell off of the car, and you'll see we were flat for a number of years, and actually within that, from about 08, 09 to about, or 9, 10 to about 13, 14, we were subject to this gap elimination adjustment, which actually kept us flat. But as we go through, we see for the last 3 years, there's the implementation of what the governor has proposed. 21, 22, you see a big increase in our foundation aid, $9 million. 22, 23, we saw an increase of about $15, $16 million. And we're expecting for 23, 24, and it's included in the budget, an additional $19 million in state aid. And those are not one-time revenues. That would be a total of $106.9 million of foundation aid as a base every year going forward, presuming everything else stays the same. So what's the budget look like? On the revenue side, you've seen most of this. Our state aid is at 152.3. You mentioned that with our levy and our STAR, basically our tax levy, at $122.3 million. One item that I've noted before, and I'll just mention it again, when you compare 22-23 to 23-24 for the state aid purposes, state aid was 48% of our revenues in 22-23, and the levy was 45. So it was 48-45. State aid is now 52% of our revenue, and the levy is 42%. So we are becoming more reliant on state aid at this point. So the increase in the foundation aid is great, but we are now a little bit more reliant on that foundation aid as we go forward. In total, we've got a budget recommendation of $290,752,050. It's an increase of almost $25 million, but I've noted this before as well. Of that $25 million, $22.8 million of it is state aid alone. Okay. As we look at expenditures, we've looked at this two different ways, one by function and one by object. By functions includes, so when you look at general support, it includes all the salaries and the benefits and the contract services and supplies and materials. It's the kind of all-in number for the category of general support, up about $2.9 million. Instruction and instructional programs, up about $13.5 million. It's about 10% increase. Pupil transportation, up about $1.6 million. I will note that for pupil transportation and general support, there is a factor kind of unique to this year and next year, which is supply chain issues and inflation. Those numbers are a little bit bigger, and the percent increases in those categories are a little bit higher than what they typically have been in the past. We are hoping at some point they kind of start making their trend downward, but right now we've been seeing in transportation and buildings and grounds 15 to 25% increases for supplies that we normally bought at a very much lower cost in the past. Community schools up 688, primarily when you compare 22-23 to 23-24. We restarted, we did kids care. We didn't have that formally in the budget last year. It is now formally a part of the general fund budget. That's why you see the increase of 688. And then undistributed is up about $6 million. That is a general category, but just for clarification, it includes retirement, Social Securities, workers' comp, debt service, other benefits, medical insurance. All those types of items are included in undistributed. Looking at it by object, which is just salaries, equipment, and BOCES services, you can see it here, and I'm not going to read through all of them, but the big increases you will see, again, equipment was up 404, about 50%, almost 50%. We have made an intentional decision to increase our equipment budget for the district to closer to $1 million. We have been running on $450,000, $500,000 for equipment replacement items on a budget of $230–40 million is really not sufficient. With the increase that we've seen, we decided we need to be replacing more items more quickly on a faster pace. So we've increased that upwards to $1 million. Contracts and supplies are up. Again, inflation, supply chain issues, tuitions for private charter and public charter and private schools up about 15%. That's both due to the number of kids attending those organizations as well as the tuition costs for those organizations. BOCES services are up, as well as benefits expense. BOCES is up about 16%. They fall into the same bucket we do. Supply chain, costs for contracts, they're up about 16% in their COSERS, services they provide. And our benefits increase is about 9%, which is about trend throughout the county and throughout upstate. This is new for this year. We were thinking about this and wanted to present some changes in positions, not only for 23-24, but also for the last couple years, to kind of give a perspective on where have the funds gone. So with the increase in the foundation aid and continual assessment of student need. During the budget development process, as well as during the school year after the budget is actually completed, there are more needs that are identified that go through a process, and then more positions are added during the year. This slide is representing the positions we are adding during the budget development process for next school year only. So we are recommending to add about 54 positions. They are currently broken up as instructional program and general support. Those are the categories and the functional areas within those categories that the state requires us to budget them in, as well as to report on them in the three-part budget. So instructional and program obviously includes instruction, but also includes curriculum development, student with disabilities, special schools, health services, psychological services, social worker services. They are all bucketed in instructional program, as opposed to general support, which are your traditional superintendent's office, legal, buildings and grounds, risk management, finance, security. Those are all in the general support bucket. We are adding 45.8, we are recommending 45.8 positions in the instructional program category. 22 of those positions are coming directly over from the ARP funding that we've had the last couple years. The rest are additions that we've been making, that we are recommending to the budget. And in the general support category, 8.5 positions. This next slide kind of takes us a little bit further. So what have we done over the last, and I know this is a little busy, but I wanted to show it in terms of what we've done. So as you look at the green boxes, 21-22 school year, 22-23, and 23-24, we add positions to the budget two ways, which I tried to capture in the green box notation at the bottom. During the budget development process, we recommend positions to be added to the budget, which we just showed on the previous slides. But after the budget is done, it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't add positions to the budget, because student needs continue to arise, assessments take place, and during the year, we add more positions as we need them. So what ends up happening is when we did the 21-22 budget, and we may have had an increase or a decrease there, during the 21-22 school year, we would add positions during the school year, which would then get captured in the rollover for the next year's budget. So they will show up as new positions in the following year, okay? So what's that mean? It's what's in front of you here. In 21-22, going into 22-23, we added 56 positions. During 22-23, when we developed the budget for this year, plus what we've added during this year, there are 124 new positions recommended in rolling over and or recommended in the 23-24 budget. Of that 124, 55 of them were on the previous slide. In total, over the 3 years where we have gotten this increase in foundation aid, we have added 174 positions to our general fund budget, with 150, or almost 90% of them, in the instructional and instructional program category. And that does not include, we still have 50 or 60 positions in ARP that are still out there for next year, that we will figure out how to embed them and what we need to do with them for the 24-5 budget next year. But that doesn't include ARP, it does not include CRRSA funding, it does not include grant funding. And the other note is that 174 positions that we added does not include bus drivers, attendants, daily subs, or coaching FTEs. And we have added many, many coaches to the budget for 22-3 and 3-4, but because they're really only a dollar allocation for their stipend, it's really not fair to say we've added 150 coaches as a one, so we've deducted them from here. So this is truly 174 positions over the last 2 or 3 years that we have added, with 151 of them being directly related to instruction and instructional program. So what's our budget look like overall? At this point in time, $290.7 million. It's an increase in the budget of almost $25 million, as we said. 19.1 million of that $25 million is directly related just to foundation aid increases from the state, which is about 77% of that is strictly related to the increase we received in foundation aid. Our budget-to-budget increase is 9.39%. Our levy is at this point $122,366,000. That is at the cap, the maximum allowable levy. If we go out at that number or less, we only need 50% plus 1 vote in order to have the budget approved. If we go out above that, we need a 60% majority. That levy increase is about $2.2 million over last year, or an increase in the levy of about 1.87%. All that drops back down to what is our tax rate to our residents when they get their tax bills. The 22-23 tax rate was $24.84. Based on the information we have from the town of Greece at this point in time, we are estimating that the 23-24 rate will decrease by 30 cents, or maybe a little bit more, to $24.54. And although this shows a change of a positive 120, that should be a negative 1.20% decrease in the rate. And if we translate that into a tax bill, a typical tax bill, what I used here was a median home from the paper from 2022 at $170,000. That was what about the median home was last year. So if your home was assessed at $170,000 last year, and it remains at $170,000 this year, regardless of whether you are eligible or not for a basic star or an enhanced star, you should see a decrease in your tax bill of approximately $51. And then one additional item that is within the budget is the proposition for our bus replacement. 35 vehicles to be replaced and traded in, 33 of them being buses, 2 of them being minivans. As I mentioned a couple board sessions ago, it's a bigger number than we've had in the past. Primarily, the guts of it is we plan on ordering 10 more large buses than we typically would in previous years, in anticipation of what might be coming with electric buses. We've already been told by our primary bus manufacturer that we buy our large buses from, they will not be making an electric bus in 24-5, or possibly 5-6. So for us, we decided we will buy 10 more this year, large buses, and then not buy any buses in 24, 25, or any more. And if we need to, we can go 1 more year until we really figure out what the scope and the requirements will be with electric buses. So for those 35 vehicles, we will spend almost $5 million. We're going to use $1.7 million from our bus reserve. We'll finance that over 5 years, starting with 23-24. And in essence, what that does is make it no additional cost to residents. There is no additional cost in the tax levy, because between what we take out of the reserve and what we get back in state aid will come to $4,914,000. Superintendent will bring us home.
You have to share the good news. So this is just our final, just to close, we just want to remind people that we have one voting location. We are using our new transportation facility. You see the picture here. We have made a promise. We're meeting soon to really look at making sure that parking is really clear and accessible. I know our team has really looked at even setting up the room a little bit differently, so we're excited to be able to have people all in this space again. Got some great feedback about that last year, but want to improve on a few things. To be eligible, voters must be registered at Monroe County Board of Elections. And you can just see the address there. So just that final reminder, as well as some dates. So you'll see next week on the 18th, we will come back. We may have some updated information hopefully by then. We'll do a final budget presentation, and hopefully the board will vote to adopt the budget. On the 25th, the budget book will be available for public review. On May 2nd, there will be a public hearing. And on the 16th, it's the actual vote. I have a TBD there because we will plan a board candidates night, but that really isn't decided until we have petitions in. So with that, we will close this and take any questions that you might have.
Questions? Ms. Farah?
I just have a quick question. This is regarding page 10. I know that Steve Chatterton and his team, they have worked phenomenally. They've set up, you can't get into our front doors if you tried, and kudos, because I've got 4 in there. You don't want an unhinged mama bear up there. But the problem that we're seeing is more inside the schools. So how are we, when you say we're making student and staff safety a priority, what are we going to be doing going forward in the budget that we're not doing now? Or we should be doing, or just elaborate a little bit more if you can.
So I'm not sure if I understand when you say inside the building.
Well, there is consistent fights. There are lots of things going on. You know, teachers, the students, behaviors, all of that stuff.
So with that, I guess I would link you back to all of the bullets that were talked about related to partnerships and the specific resources, supports, and positions for behavioral health. So some of that is through behavior specialists, it might be crisis interveners, it might be some of our Center for Youth folks that come in and work. I mean, there's a lot of different things embedded in there that are really getting at the whole idea of behavioral health in schools. So not just one thing. But there's lots of positions in there that are dedicated to that.
Okay, I have a follow-up. So you had mentioned that we have 35 security guards. Where are we putting these with all the schools if we've got 35? Are we allocating 1? We don't even have enough to put 2 in each school. So where are the 35 going? Are they going more to the high school, middle schools? I mean, we obviously have 1 at each school at least.
I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
The deployment of security, that's not for a public discussion. If you want to go into exec session to discuss that, we'll do that. But I'm not going to put out to the public what we do for individual security and what security guards we have where located throughout the district. I'm not putting that out there for public knowledge.
Can I just add one thing, though? I would add that we have a director of security. So I think the big piece that I want to make sure people understand is, as a director of security in this district, when we talk about budget development, a question I have for Steve every year is, do you have enough? And it's not just this time of year. Like, it's throughout the year. Do we need more? Do you need less? What do you need? So he will always advocate for what he needs, and then also is responsible for allocating and making sure that our schools are safe. So I have great confidence in that number and what we have, and also his deploying of people.
Okay, well, I'll just make a final statement on that. If we've got, it seems that we need more. So I think we should, I know that you mentioned that is something in our budget. It listed 9 different, actually it was on page, I'm sorry, we didn't get this ahead of time, actually. We are just doing this now. So on page 21, you are allocating, in general support, 8.5. So obviously, I mean, there's a lot of people in there. So I'm hoping that we're going to work more diligently on the issues that we have into the school district. So I'll leave that there.
Thank you, Ms. Farah. Any other questions, comments on the budget? Mr. Swicky?
Romeo, a question for you. Sorry, Kathy. But Romeo, a question for you on actually the tax rate, right? And I know we have talked previously about assessed values. I know Greece was looking at all those housing values and either looking at the whole town and then certain portions. For me, right, I saw the example of the 170,000, right? You know, if I'm a taxpayer, right, and I go to, my assessed value goes to 200,000 because the town of Greece told me so, right? How does that change the numbers for us and I guess the tax outlay for that individual, knowing that that increase could be something that some taxpayers face?
So I guess I would say, I'll back up just a quick bit on the assessed values. So I think we've talked a couple times about the Greece, town of Greece, my understanding of the assessed value situation. So my understanding that a town-wide reassessment was completed during the previous year. Originally, we were anticipating that those figures, those new assessments would be submitted to the state. We learned since that it was up in the air. They were not certain if they were going to submit the entire town-wide reassessments into the state. We've gotten an update 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and based on that number, the assessed values in the town only went up about 3.3%, which to us sort of indicates they left the levy approximately where it was last year, but they have accounted for in there new home sales that maybe last year were assessed at 150,000, but now have sold at 230,000. That increase times how many times there were sales are now in that new number. That would kind of explain why the assessments only went up 3.3%. So for a house that's at 170,000, and assuming that that is the case, your assessment at 170,000, unless you bought a home or sold a home, will not change. It has gone up $51, which is, or it's going to go down $51. But if your assessment went from 170 to Mr. Sawicki's example of 200, even with a 30-cent decrease in the tax rate, you're probably going to see an increase in your tax bill to some degree. You're not going to break even on that.
And
right, but the rate would be down 30%, but your assessed value could be up $30,000. Net-wise, you would probably see a small increase in your tax bill as a result.
So just to clarify, make sure I'm understanding correctly. So at the end of the day, though, right, the district's only going to levy $122,366,000. The individual experience, right, could change depending on whether my assessed value went up.
Correct.
And if I know others went up and mine stayed the same, almost by default, it's going to get spread differently.
Yeah.
And if I don't get assessed higher, then I'll actually get a bigger benefit. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's our cap, though.
The 122 levy is the maximum, regardless of whether the assessments stay the same, go down, or go up. The 122,000 or 122 million, we are neutral to that. We will get that money. It's just a matter of how is it distributed amongst the 28,000 or 30,000 households within the town of Greece. If the assessments go up, the rate comes down. If the assessments goes down, the rate goes up. The district is made whole at whatever levy the board approves and adopts. That will stay, and that will be the most we will collect. Again, to John's point, it's just a matter of how it's distributed amongst residents.
Great. Thanks, Romeo.
Thank you.
Ms. Flores?
I really just have a comment in the interest of time. I will not hold this for my board member comments in case we don't have them. I want to thank Romeo and Janine and everybody in the finance office as well as the cabinet and that the work that is put into this budget and to get us here, and the fact that we get a large packet of stuff to read before we come to our meetings, and it takes hours sometimes for us to go through it. We don't get some of these packets till right before our meeting right now because things change so fast, and they are constantly having to reassess and readjust and make changes on the fly constantly. And you come in here and you look in these packets for us, and the way that you explain it to people is from 6 different sides, so that it is taken and you can understand what is going on with it. So I just want to say kudos to you, Romeo, to you, Janine, your finance team, and the amount of work that goes into this to get us, which is one of the primary functions of the school board, is to oversee the business function of this district. You make this job way easier for us. I have a finance background, and my head still swims. And I have to believe you recite some of this stuff in your sleep. But thank you for the amount of work that goes into this, and for the fact that I think that you approach this as if this was your own money, and this was your family. And you really think about every single aspect that goes into this, and I just wanted the time to say thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member comments? Mr. Bonagario.
Thank you, I appreciate the
Microphone.
Thank you. Do this all the time. So thank you for the again, focus on addressing learning loss caused by the pandemic. Really important things, focusing on math in the LA. We do know that some of, not the loss, but there have been issues regarding proficiency going way back. Are we allocating any new funds to evidence-based science of reading strategies? And can you maybe just give a little bit of a insight onto that?
So I would say, while I was sharing, I highlighted positions, but also what's going on in the background is a lengthy curriculum review process. So one of the things that happens, actually, they were up at district office today, actually studying evidence-based programs. And what will happen through that process is a program will be selected, and there will be funds allocated for that. So there will be purchase. And when we think about, for example, shifting and using a different resource for something like ELA that goes across 11 different elementary schools, there's significant cost to that. So I should have mentioned that embedded in that comment there, as well as the positions.
Thanks. And just a quick follow-up. Sure. Will that also be, there'll be funds to support teachers and increase training for them?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. We try to be really cohesive about that in terms of the way that process runs, in terms of the recommendation, the study, the recommendation, purchase, and then what the follow-up looks like in terms of time over the summer and throughout the school year for PD. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Bonagario.
Romeo, you mentioned this, but whoever wants to take it. The increased numbers of FTEs, 173 total, are those fully staffed? Do we have, I know we've had trouble filling positions, so are some of those created but not filled yet? Where are we on that?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, and I did think about it, I forgot, failed to do it. That is 174 positions created. They may not, I couldn't tell you offhand how many are vacant of those. I would say many of them are filled, but us, along with every other district out there, is struggling to fill positions. But those are positions that are there, but not all 174 are filled today.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on now, item 5.01, the emergency roof resolutions for Long Ridge and Olympia. Can I have somebody move those to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Farmer, second by Mr. Maloney. Any comments, questions, or concerns on those? Seeing none, all is in favor. That passes 9-0. Moving on to the ELC storage facility, Long Ridge and Olympia roof seekers. Can I have somebody move those to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Flores, seconded by Dr. Trawick. Any comments, questions, concerns on those? Seeing none, all those in favor. That passes 9-0. Moving on to anticipated bids. It's for information only. Does anybody have any questions? All right, moving on to consent agenda. Can I have somebody move the consent agenda to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Sawicki, seconded by Vice President Malora. Any comments, questions, or concerns on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor. That passes 9-0. Moving on to the student trip, field trip approval. Can I have somebody move that to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Flores, seconded by Mr. Maloney. Comments, questions, concerns on that? I'm just going to make a comment. It is absolutely amazing to see our gladiators headed to the World Championships in Texas, so that is an awesome accomplishment. I remember when the program first started, they came and presented to the Board of Education in a study session. And, you know, it was kind of a little bit of a pipe dream and they were struggling, and now to be at the World Championships is absolutely amazing. With that, all those in favor? That passes 9-0. And moving on to board member comments. Board member comments. Dr. Trawick.
So I'd like to start my comments tonight by thanking all the parents and students that came. I wanted to start with a comment by Amanda Yoder, one of the parents who spoke this evening. And what I really liked about what she shared with us was how important it is for you to show up for your kids. So I would like to encourage each and every parent that's out there that can to show up at their kids' school. Show up, volunteer, be a part of the things that are going on, because as you show up, then your kids they will show up as well. They always model our children model our behavior. I have a love of reading because I always saw my mom read. She laid in bed and she read a book at night, and I wanted to be like a grown-up, so I started to do it. And that's how I developed a love of reading. And, you know, my husband similarly saw his dad with collecting comic books, and he learned how to read through comic books, but modeling the behavior. So again, we're talking about some big issues in our schools and things that are happening with our kids, but I think at some point we too have to also look at how we're showing up and can we show up in spaces. So that was comment number one, and if you are available, there are lots of ways you can do that. I also wanted to talk about the Leader in Me program. Since I've joined the Board of Education, I have felt this is such a powerful program. I've watched it evolve from elementary to middle school. Would love to see it go all the way up to the high school level. And I know that there are pilots in the district around doing some of those elements, but it's a great program. It gives our kids great skills, gives them courage, empathy, and if you missed it, the kids that got up and spoke from the middle school, they were, you know, talking about the Leader in Me program, so that's how it came up tonight. And again, I just think it's something great that our district does. Number 3, GMB, Grease Marching Band. You know, I'm a marching band mama, so I'm going to promote it. Our kids were there tonight for a great open house. If you know kids that are interested in music and want to be part of something extraordinary, it was brought up tonight how we need to have collaboration on the board, right? And we need to have collaboration in our schools. Well, I think our GMB program is a perfect model for that, because what it does is it brings students from all Grease schools, and all of a sudden we become one Grease. They compete together, they make friendships together, they make impact, and they win competitions. So that open house was tonight. They're getting ready for parade season. So please encourage, we need families, parent volunteers, kids to be involved. Number 4, very quickly, just want to say on Saturday we have the Family Fun Fest. Our community schools folks were here today. They talked about that. I got a chance to go last year, and it was amazing. I couldn't believe so many activities, literally room to room, wall to wall activities. Again, other ways to get involved. It's a great way, even if you have issues with what's going on in the district, it's a great way to meet people. You know, the teachers are volunteering, the staff are volunteering. Sometimes the best time to approach someone is not, you know, in their office, but when they're, you know, doing some fun stuff, the hat's off, the tie's off. It's a more relaxed environment. So again, I'm encouraging folks to do that. Prom is coming up. And I have come across some seniors that are not excited about prom. I cannot believe it. You know, they're like, prom. But it's once in a lifetime. So I'm just imploring people, please spread the word about getting involved. School spirit, this is once in a lifetime. You don't know what it's like to sit as an adult at a table and you say, I never went to my prom. And you hear all these great stories. I went. But I'm just saying, we don't want our kids to have that regret. So encourage them, our seniors. This is their senior year. They should be strutting their stuff and being excited about being seniors. Okay. Festival of the Bands concert at Olympia this Wednesday starts at 7 o'clock. What's great about this is it's middle school and high school students that get to play together, kind of like a battle of the bands. It's really fun. It's really fun. I'm a band mom, so I'm going to promote those things. And last but not least, one of my favorite folks, I love you all, but one of my favorite folks in the room is Mr. Fleming. Mr. Fleming, I just want to say to you, thanks for filling in the gap. We needed you over at Olympia, and you deployed, just like a soldier. You went back. We got that little message, that robocall, saying Mr. Fleming was going back. My kids were so excited. I had to let them know it was temporary. He has a new job. He has other things he has to do. But they were just, my daughter, who my son knows you better than my daughter, but my daughter was like, just to see him in the halls again, Mom. And then when you made the announcements the first day, she came home and told me, I heard his voice. And, you know, you just thank you. This is what we do as Greece, right? We step up. There was a vacancy. You needed to be, you know, you stepped up. You knew the students. You knew the culture. I don't know what the backroom conversation was. All I know is that you showed up for our kids. And I thank you for that. It meant something to them. And I wish Mr. Klein all the best of luck as he continues to fill that role. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trewick. Any other board member comments? Mr. Maloney?
I had some, but I don't know. Mrs. Trewick filled us all in, so I guess all I got to say is tonight we missed an explanation on tenure, and there was a lot of great people here, and some of them still sitting in this room. Congratulations on your tenure, and thank you for being part of Greece Central.
Mr. Sawicki?
So I got a few thoughts this evening. First and foremost, earlier tonight, right, somebody brought up a point around, hey, what's the board's purpose, and compelling us to be the village, right, and speak, you know, for our community and for our structure for our kids. And for me, you know, I've heard that metaphor used before. And when I think about our board purpose, in many ways, we're not building the structure. We're overseeing the build of the structure. And if I think about it and I apply it to the village metaphor, I'm going to beat this up pretty hard here, right? But I'm going to build 100 houses in that village because it takes about 100 people to have a successful community, right? But each one of those houses might look a little bit different. And if I talk to 100 different people, they're going to want 100 different designs on what each one of those houses look like, and they may all provide adequate shelter, right? But it's our objective as a board to oversee the building of that village, right, in a fiscally responsible way that really supports the whole community of the village, right? Not just one section is better than the others, but the whole village can prosper and survive. Because again, if all 100 houses don't make it, it's not going to be a successful community and a successful village. So I'm going to go through my laundry list of the structural things that I've thought about that we've put in place, and budget time's a good time to reflect on this. You know, I think about every year we look at our learning course curriculum. I'm looking at Dr. Colicchio over there, right? And I marvel at the 150 pages of course offerings that we have that I put up against any other district in the state, the country, right, in terms of what we do here. And then tack onto that, right, the CTE pathways that go along with that to make sure that our kids are ready for the next level, whatever that level is for them. Then I think about our building security, and Board Member Farah mentioned it earlier, right? Every time that we have a conversation with Chatterton, right? I would have said Mr. Chatterton, but I don't know how you take that. But anyways, my point there, right, is the expertise in that space. Every time we hear one of those god-awful stories on the news, right, and we ping Steve and say, Steve, hey, could that happen to us? No, no, no. Like, we already thought about it, and here's the 8 protocols on why we're covered, right? Like, wow, what a peace of mind and what a cool structure we have in our village, right? Go down the line, we heard about community schools today, right? I'm not going to beat that one up. I could, right? But how incredible to go from nothing 5 years ago to what we have today in a community, right, that is struggling and asking for that help on so many different levels, right? Pretty awesome stuff, right? This is a couple years back, but we had a capital project, right? Man, the district caught up with everybody else, right? We got new fields with lights. Wow, this is crazy, right? Fields with lights, building infrastructure, and this transportation center that we're sitting in here today, right? Feels like we're building that structure again. And oh, by the way, like throughout all this, we also had a pandemic, right? And like I failed to mention that, right? But it was kind of big for us, not just here, everywhere, right? But if you asked your friends, right, if they had a Chromebook available for their kids, right? Most of the districts in our surrounding communities didn't, right? Mine did, right? We sure didn't know how to teach yet on them, right? But we had the tools available, and again, that structure is in place, right? And we were ahead of the curve because of that. You know, and I didn't even talk about the other structural things, right? In a village, right, I got to have good people there to maintain the village, right? And through the process here, we've gone through numerous labor agreements with our unions, right, and successfully come to the table and brokered those deals to set us up for continued success. And oh, by the way, like labor shortages and inflationary pressures galore all throughout. So for me, right, to bring forward again a fiscally responsible budget, right, where we're under the tax cap yet again, and not going and asking for something over the top, that feels pretty good to me. So, perfect, you know, are there things that I'm frustrated about the houses in the village that I would change? Absolutely. Everyone is. Everyone's going to want different window shades or brick instead of wood or whatever. You're going to have those choices and those disagreements. But our goal, again, is to build that village as a whole. Now that we've built the village as a successful group here, right, my next piece is we got to fill that village, right? And, you know, you'll say it's the kids, you'll say it's the students, right? I'm actually going to point, as Dr. Trawick pointed out, to one of our residents who came here earlier, Amanda Yoder, right, who shared the importance of that involvement in that village. And as Board Member Farah also alluded to, right, the trouble in the schools, right, too. For me, I really look at our parents and our families, right, and ask them to help us fill the village. Right? In many ways for me and my personal experiences in the district, I'll show up at a PTA meeting and it's me and an invested teacher and a parent coordinator and one other person that we begged to join the PTA. And those 4 people are the ones that make those wheels turn for each event. And play that on repeat, whether you want to be in the Sports Booster Club, the Drama Club, etc. And I would challenge each of the schools, right? I told you it takes 100 individuals, 100 families to make a successful village. Do you have 100 invested families at each of your buildings to make that as successful as possible? For me, that's where I want to push next, right? Because I feel like the structure is in place. But how do we maximize that? How do we build the village bigger, better, stronger? We got to fill all the buildings first. So with that, I don't have anything else to say. I didn't have a big closing or anything like that.
I was really
right?
hoping.
Is this when your TikTok comes?
This is when my TikTok comes out. No, but I appreciate immensely the work of all the people in the district, right? And it's not just this cabinet here, it's not the superintendent, it's not the board, it's every single person who shows up every day, right, to make a difference in their buildings, right? To me, it's at the building. Like politics, everything is local, right? And we need to get that down at that level, right, to really enact change, right? The change that we all want to see. And to Dr. Trawick's point again, I'm stealing all your thunder there, right? The discord on the board, we all want that. We all want better villages, right? And how we design the house, that's where the disagreement and debate occurs. But at the end of the day, we want the best village possible. So with that, I yield the floor to President McCabe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swicky. Elegant as always. Any other board member comments? Ms. Farah?
I am actually going to go off of Mr. Swicky here. I can't say that enough. You've heard me say it, the PTA, the Sports Booster, begging people to come. And we sat there at Hooligans, TC Hooligans, and tried to get people to come out. What people don't understand is you go to a game and you want to go to the baseball game up at Olympia and you went 50 yards and all of a sudden I want a cup of coffee. Well, the concession stand's not open because we didn't have those parents to do that. So we are working on that. So I'm hoping that we'll get more people. Tomorrow night, there's actually a committee meeting for the Sports Booster. But I encourage all of you guys, I mean, these kids, they can't get to their sports by themselves. They can't, they can't have camaraderie without the parents. My family's huge on that. We've been very successful. My husband is a huge softball fan, been in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we can't be more community. You just have to have a family when it comes to that. And it does come over to the academics and the school and the teachers and everything. So you do need to have a village. But I thank you for saying that because we can't say that enough. Without the parents' involvement, and I mentioned that earlier, the 12 parents that are on the community schools, well, are there other ones on there that are not actually employed with us? Because we already know we're already invested in this. We need more. We need more voices. We need more people. More conversations. So that's not what I was going to speak on, but you got me on a tangent here. I want to push back to Justin and Leora. Did I say that right? Leora. They were for the robotics. They came here to speak. Kudos to that team. They are doing phenomenal. The field trip was approved, so they are headed off to Texas. I can't wait to see when they come back. I hope they win it all. Sounds like they should. Amanda Yoder, yes, thank you for the balance that you had regarding your speech today. I mean, it's nice to hear some good things along with a little bit of the bad, and you mixed it in well. Jordan, we talked about accountability and transparency. We're working on that. We have a long way to go. I don't think anyone up here is not willing to take that chance and come out there with that. Carrie, you talked about literacy and instruction. We're working on that. As Superintendent Groutman said, tomorrow there is a committee meeting, and we're looking to purchase new curriculum. So I'm interested to see where that is going to lead us. I mean, that's part of the big budget. I mean, we're all about academics. We need to have these kids shine. Mary, you always take us on a journey. You have years of experience, so thank you for every time you come up here. I never know what's going to come out, but it's always a story and a journey. Two last things. I want to kudos to an email that the board was sent by a student. It took a lot of courage to say what you said. It was an 8-part presentation, which was phenomenal. Many points. I know that the superintendent and the building principals are going to work more diligently on that, so that was great to hear. Spring Fling, Saturday. Everyone needs to be there. You're not going to know your neighbors unless you come. And I said 2 last, but I got one more. May 16th, come out and vote. And I'm done.
Thanks. Mr. Bonagario.
So I have my microphone. So I know a teacher at Odyssey who often tells me about Mr. Sawicki was volunteering at something today, or his wife was doing something today, and I hear those kinds of stories a lot. I thank you for your participation. It doesn't go unnoticed. And same thing for Mrs. Farah. I know how nonstop you are with all that kind of stuff too. So kudos to both of you, and I'm sure everyone on this board does so much. And so thank you to all of you. Really, really impressed today to see the students who came and spoke. A lot of real courage among them as well. So just, it's really neat to see what our students can do, and how proud they can make us. Yeah, the gladiators and the robotics team, that's awesome. The students from Athena High School, just in middle school, really impressed me. I plan to be there at the Spring Festival as well. One of the other things that came from, that was mentioned from the Athena Middle students was the leader in me, using the Stephen Covey book, 7 Habits of the Successful Leader, I think it is. Happened to see Stephen Covey today, and maybe some of you were there. Great stuff, and just love to see that kind of, those kinds of values instilled in our students. Last thing I want to say is, Superintendent Groutman, thank you. Last meeting, we had a presentation on perception surveys. I appreciate you shared with us the recent surveys that were done. I find those extremely valuable in providing insight. I would really encourage us as a board to make more use of them in our oversight roles, so we can better understand, not just leaving it to you, but as overseers, to be able to understand what's going on. Please, I would say, continue to make those available to us. Even maybe we could do some of our own to get some better insight. So I just kind of put that out to us as a board to consider. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Barrio.
I'm just going to say ditto. I mean, you guys were awesome.
That's good.
Thank you, Mrs. Farmer. Vice President Moore.
I just have a commercial. The Greece Education Foundation is having their 21st annual golf tournament, which means I've been to 20 of them already. It's June 26th at Timber Ridge Golf Course. It's a wonderful day of golf. It's a wonderful way to support the Greece Education Foundation. And I'm not a golfer, but I sponsor a hole. So, I mean, you don't have to be a golfer to participate. If you want any information, please contact the school district. We'd love to see lots of people there. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Moore. All right, I'm up. Mr. Sawicki, it's always impressive. I gotta say, your speech was excellent. You hit the nail on the head in a lot of different ways. I wish I could be as eloquent as you are. That's a struggle. Maybe you can work with me on that. For Mr. Maloney, we do have a tenure celebration May 10th at 4:30. We do a district-wide tenure celebration. So just so you put that on your calendar, and everybody else on the board, make sure you get that on your calendar. I'm just going to highlight a couple things that I was impressed with over break that I noticed. Our spring break food distribution through community schools was super impressive. The number of our elementary schools that hosted events and had kids in the building and did things was absolutely phenomenal. So a shout out to all our elementary schools that did those programs. The next couple of days, it's going to be gorgeous weather. Spring sports is in full swing. Get out and enjoy a sporting event. Take your kids, take your wife, take your dog, whatever, and go out and enjoy a baseball game or a softball game, lacrosse, track and field. There's so many great athletes in this community. It'd be great to see you there. I'm super excited to see we're going to have a rowing club. Yeah. That is absolutely awesome. The fishing club, it's really a lot of good things going on with clubs. And on another note, the safety committee met, and from a school district perspective, nothing is ever unanimous in a school district. And the safety committee, which is made up of first responders, several of the people that work in the district, Director Chatterton is the chair of that committee, and Director Chatterton brought different ideas to the committee, and the committee unanimously supported a weapons detection system that we're going to be implementing later in the spring at one of our schools. I'm super excited about that. Hopefully it'll be fully implemented in all of our high schools and middle schools, Ms. Farrar. That's kind of in relation to what you may have been talking about. So I'm super excited to see that coming. I think it's going to be great for the district. I mean, we'll be one of the first suburban school districts doing it. And I know several other districts are already jumping on board and asking questions in regards to it. And with that, I'm going to finish up so Superintendent Groutman can go.
I promise to be fast. I have a few thank yous. One, I wanted to just say thank you again to Romeo and Janine for the work with the budget. The other person that I want to point out in this is Debbie. So she's sitting right down at the end and does not get, so she is behind the scenes doing a million things. So as much work as Janine and Romeo have done on the other end of that is Debbie checking things over, Debbie sending things back, Debbie looking after I've looked at it 3 times to say, did you really want it to say this? You know, she is a critical friend. She is an awesome editor and a huge help, not just to me, but to Romeo and Janine and the team every time we put something in front of the board. And we take a ton of pride in front of what we put in front of the board and have so much confidence because of your work. So I want to say thank you to you for that. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Suzanne. So to go to the point that, to walk into the building today and see a room full of elementary teachers studying, actually getting presentations from evidence-based programs. I want to make the point to Carrie, who made the comment today at Residents Forum, none of the points that she made, none of the programs she mentioned are in use in Greece. So I think it's really important because people create stories around what we're doing and what we're not doing that are not accurate. And what we are doing is studying. And what we are doing is making sure that we bring people into a selection process and a study process so that what we select makes sense. And none of it will matter if we don't have input and if we don't implement well, because you can have a great program and have it fail miserably. So I say that to you, Suzanne, because you've done an incredible job of bringing people through that process. The work that you've done with IRLA before this is second to none, and has done great things to help support our struggling readers. And this is a long-term problem. It's something that we really have to work on. You know that, we know that. But I appreciate your work, and I appreciate your getting buy-in from people. And then, yes, well deserved. And then my last thank you is to Val and the community schools team. And I can repeat everything that everybody said, but I think for me the biggest thing is that we have changed mindset and hearts in this district. And when you look at the breaks and when you look at what happens and what people's first instinct is, it's around, what are we going to do, you know, next week when everybody's off from school? That didn't happen just because we have nice people working in the district. It doesn't happen in most districts, but it happens here. And I'm very proud of that. So thank you all for your work, and thank you for your amazing analogy and how that all fits together, because it really resonates.
Can you write it down for me?
Yeah.
I'll draw a picture. All right,
Have
Mr.
a good
Maloney.
night.
Excuse me. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second? Ms. Flores, all those in favor? That passes 9-0. Nobody ever votes no on that. I can't understand that.